Good evening, my name is Joseph Michael, and let's discuss Sony's PlayStation 3. It originally released in November of 2006 with the slim version coming out in August of 2009, and then finally the super slim version releasing in September of 2012. The PS5 just released this week, and that's exactly why I'm making this video. I figured what better time than now than to look at Sony's history and its first foray into HD or high definition gaming, and that is with the PS3. Now, before I continue with this video, I just want to make a quick disclaimer and just state that this is primarily geared towards those people who collect physically, not really digitally. With that being said, let's go ahead and begin. So, oftentimes recently, I've been seeing comments about how what's the point of getting a PS3 if all the best exclusives, all the best games, be it exclusive or multi-platform, have already released for the current generation consoles, the PS4 and Xbox One. And while I could understand why that sentiment is true, because let's face it, a lot of past generation games have been remastered for the PS4. Where I think oftentimes people forget that there's still a lot of really great games for the PS3 and connected to that to the 360, of course, both in terms of exclusives and multi-platform games. And so that's what I want to quickly go over right now. My first list is essentially some five exclusive games that I think are still worth playing, and then five multi-platform games that are still worth playing. They are not available as if that's true as of now when this video is being posted. They are not available for the PS4 or Xbox One, at least not physically. They might be available on PS Now or Game Pass, but again, this is more for physical collectors and physical players. So let's go ahead and begin. And actually, before I do, let me just state this. In no order are these in no order do they indicate that it's better than the other. So what I mean by that, just because I say this is the number one doesn't mean it's better than the other four on the spot that came before that. I'm just listing games that when I think about the PS3, it's what I want to play on it. So yeah, let's go ahead and begin. So let's begin with exclusives and Infamous. So Sucker Punch, of course, has always had a name for themselves. It had made a bigger name with Ghost of Tsushima. But people often forget that before that, there was Sly Cooper and Infamous. Infamous is such a great game series. And sure, the fourth one released on the PS4, but only on the PS3 can one experience the original duology, the first two games of the series of Coma. Such a fun series. If you ever wanted to be a superhero but not connected to the MCU, the Marvel or DC, what better way than through Infamous? The next one is Killzone. It's a first-person shooter set in a dystopian, it's set in the future, and it takes place in a world that's very dystopian because there's been a lot of war and conquest on it. There's actually a trilogy of it on the PS3, and it's not available on the PS4 physically. And it's a really great, fun first-person shooter series. If you're familiar with Halo, throw that out the window because the movement is so different in Killzone. It's much more heavier. At least this is true for Killzone 2. They were going for a more realistic feel for the game. It didn't really quite hit the mark. Excuse me. But with that being said, it's still such a great fun series. And it has a pretty fun story as well. Not the greatest, but still a fun series with memorable characters that you both enjoy to root for and also shake your head and be like, oh, why did you do that for? The next series is the Resistance series. Oh my gosh. Is this from Insomniac? Like Sucker Punch, a lot of people think of Ghost of Tsushima now. They probably will be for a little while. And why? Of course, why? It's such a great game. And same thing with Insomniac. I think for a little while, people will be thinking about Marvel's PS4 Spider-Man. Or PS4 Spider-Man, excuse me. Personally, I think it's the best iteration of Spider-Man away from the comic books in terms of stories and TV shows, movies, and previous games. It has the best Spider-Man story. It has a lot of heart, a lot of action, and everything that you've come to expect from Spider-Man. And he's a little bit older too. Such a great game. But we're discussing the PS3 and the Resistance series. Despite Spider-Man being so fun, if someone came up to me and asked me, Joseph, do you want a new Spider-Man game right now, the new sequel, or do you want another game in the Resistance series? I would hands down say Resistance, please. It's a sci-fi first-person shooter that takes place in an alternate history where World War II did not occur, and instead an alien species attacks us instead. It's a really great fun series. Resistance 3 for some was a misstep. I still really enjoyed it. It's much more personal as compared to Resistance 1 and 2. But wow, it's a really great first-person shooter series and does a great job of standing out when compared to Killzone. And then, of course, if one is into racing games, look no further than MotorStorm. I'm a fairly new player into this series, and I mostly just played the second and third one. I've only played the first one for a little bit, and I don't own it myself. But it's such a fun racing series. I'm not a big racing fan as a gamer myself, but I enjoy playing MotorStorm whenever I just want to pop something in. I only have about 10 to 15 minutes to play video games or half an hour before I have to do something else. The AI is pretty fun, and both at least this is true for the third and second MotorStorm, they actually do a good job of trying to run you off the track, and you're yelling at them, like, hey, what are you trying to do? Hey, no, what are you doing? Let me get ahead. It's pretty fun, even though you can't play with real people because, unfortunately, the online is gone. But the AI is quite fun in that video series. And then finally, for the last one, this is not a series like the four previous ones. But Heavenly, I'm actually cheating a little bit. I couldn't decide between Heavenly Sword and Folklore. Both older PS3 games. They came out earlier in its generation. This means they have no trophies. But despite that, don't let that stop you from playing them. They have a Heavenly Sword is essentially a god, like God of War. And Folklore is it's a unique game, and that's all I'll say about them because we need to move on forward. But yeah, let's move on to multi-platform games that are only available as of now on either the PS3 or 360. So Singularity, a sci-fi horror game. It may not be the best first-person shooter, but it has a really fun, unique story. Spec Ops: The Line. Oh my goodness. And just like with Singularity, it may not be the most polished, but did these developers really try with this game? It has such an intriguing story, and it's one of the few times where I felt like, am I the good guy here? Right? We often hear that as a meme, but this game really made you feel that way. I actually had to stop playing for a bit because the story is very heavy, and I mean that in a good way. I needed to play something a little bit more lighthearted and just more actiony. It's a third-person shooter, and it has a great story with really interesting characters. Castlevania Lords of Shadow, both 1 and 2, mostly 1. If you're a Castlevania fan and you just enjoy gothic horror in general, it's a fun action, I guess I'll call it an action RPG, more action than RPG, but it's a fun hack and slash game. The Saboteur, it's an open world game based in not occupied France during World War II. And it has a unique setting where as you continue to unlock more of the map or save France from its occupied status, more of the world's color comes into the game's world. It's mostly in black and white at first, but it comes into color as you continue playing. And then finally, the Fear Trilogy. It is available 1 through 3 on the PS3 and 360. It's another first-person sci-fi horror series. The third one may not be as great as the first two, and the second one may not be as great as the first one, but they're a really good time if you just want to pop something in, maybe get freaked out a bit, and have a good time shooting at monsters and ghosts. And not monsters, but more like spirits and ghosts and things like that. So those are 10 games that are essentially not available on the PS4 and Xbox One. So that's why I don't agree when people say there's no point on getting the PS3. That list that I just went over, the exclusive and multi-platform, I think disproves that. Now, before I end this video, I just wanted to quickly go over some of the negatives about owning a console, about owning the PS3 right now. One of them being is the controllers. I'm a huge fan of using official controllers for my systems, and I'm pretty bummed that I'm barely accepting that I'm going to have to use third-party controllers for my PS3. The reason why is because buying brand new, they're very expensive. And buying used, it's always a gambit because fortunately, again, I'm not a tech guy, but apparently the architecture, the PS3 controller, it's using a ribbon instead of something else that was being used for the PS1 and PS2 controllers. And so that's why oftentimes you'll get glitches or malfunctions with the PS3 controller. So buying used is very risky, and even then, when you're buying it like new or very good, it's going to be expensive. So that is one of the drawbacks about the PS3. But I shouldn't say thankfully. While there are a lot of alternatives, you're going to have to test and play with them to make sure you find a good replacement for the official one. The second negative thing is that unfortunately Sony stopped doing PS Plus for the PlayStation 3 and the Vita 2 if anyone's interested, or just to throw that out there. I am bummed about that. I do like how Microsoft is continuing to give games to both the Xbox One and the 360, but it is what it is. They did give us a lot of great games while they were delivering through PS Plus, and we can only move on forward, right? And that means the PS4 and PS5. And then finally, download codes. Be careful if you're going to be buying for the PS3 or collecting for the PS3. Some download codes might be expired already or will be expiring really soon. Most of them I've seen are expiring in 2021, and the latest I've seen is early 2022. But that's not for all games. I've been fortunate that none of my codes have been out of date, besides for God of War Ascension, the multiplayer pass. But that was a very short window, though. I'm very disappointed in terms of that pass in Santa Monica Studios. It was a small, or whoever made that game, it was a very small window, but that's for neither here or there. Maybe when I make a video, if I make a video about Ascension, God of War, I'll discuss that. But yeah, if you guys own a PS3 or if you don't, let's go ahead and discuss it. Please send me a message, a comment below, or make a response to this. Or if you don't own one, if you've been thinking about getting one, I say yes, of course, do it. So many great games to own on it. The PlayStation 3, I'm never going to sell my own. I'm going to keep it. When it breaks down, I'm going to do my best to fix it myself. If not, then find someone else to fix it. I never want to be PS3-less. Or, I never want to live without a PS3 in my console collection. Too many great games to not play. If you guys are interested, I did post I'll be posting a hyperlink of a list of games I do own on my PS3 currently right now to see what other games are available for it. Have a good night, guys. Take care, and I hope we could discuss and have great discussions.